I shall now invite our speakers, our panelists, to make a presentation, and we'll have the honor here to start with Mr. Yigal Erlich, whom I will introduce very quickly. Mr. Erlich is founder and managing partner of the Yozma Group and former chief scientist and Ministry of Industry and Trade in Israel. He's the founder of Yozma Group venture capital interest companies in Israel and is considered as one of the founding fathers of Israeli venture capital industry and one of the most prominent figures in the Israel high-tech arena. At the beginning of the 90s, Mr. Erlich established Yozma, which was the first VC fund sponsored by the government of Israel. The group managed $220 million and has invested in over 45 portfolio companies as of today. Between 1984 and 1992, Mr. Erlich served as the chief scientist of Israel's Ministry of Industry and Trade. In 1991, Mr. Erlich started the technology incubator program that led to the creation of 24 incubation centers throughout Israel, as well as international R&D agreements and other programs. Mr. Erlich serves as a board member of several high-tech companies today. He's also a board member of the Russian venture company, which is a $1 billion government fund of funds. Mr. Erlich holds a Bachelor in Science and a Master in Science in Chemistry and an MBA from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Mr. Erlich, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks to our moderator to present to me. I want to speak about innovations and the commercialization of innovation. And I want to start to say that innovation has a broad meaning, and it applies not only to technology, but it applies also to other sectors and other areas like high-tech and low-tech, and also to governments. But I will talk only on technology innovations and try to explain how Israel succeeded to build almost a perfect ecosystem for companies that develop high-tech. And I want to start with two major points. The first one is that it took a long time together to build an ecosystem. It's a voluntary process. You cannot get it overnight. And the other most important point is that I can say mostly it was not planned in advance. It was built block by block, and many blocks of this ecosystem are independent on each other. So let me start to explain the ecosystem and to go through some major factor or critical mass of these factors. You can see it here as well. The first one is entrepreneurial culture. Without entrepreneurial culture, it's very difficult to get innovation, especially technology innovation. And there are some ingredients of this culture to be understood. First of all is tolerance to failure. I think that, if governments try to encourage innovation or encourage research development, in other words, they encourage to take risk. And once you encourage to take risk, you have to understand that risk has also come with failure. So if you don't accept failure, it's better not to encourage taking risk. In Israel, I'm not saying that we are encouraging failures, of course, but I think we are very tolerant to failures, and people that start their company and fail, in many cases, they don't have to pay back if they took some money from the government, and they can try again. Another major point is going global from the inception. from the very beginning, people, entrepreneurs, companies think global. Because if you don't think global, your ability to compete is much less than if you go only for local considerations. Also, there is the very interesting feature of the Israeli people that you start something and you must win. You cannot leave it in the middle, or you cannot give up. You start and you must win, otherwise you better not be an entrepreneur. So this kind of culture is for many years in Israel, and it started many years ago, and it's still developing. Another point of the ecosystem is, of course, the high quality of human resources. We have this high quality people in the academia, in the defense institutions, and also from immigration. I believe you know that at the beginning of the 90s, about 1 million Jews were coming from Russia, at that time Soviet Union. Most of them were highly educated, and this was a very big contribution to the future success. It's 20 years since then, of the high-tech industry, because most of these people came as scientists or engineers. They were needed to get the Western culture of doing business, and for that purpose, the government, at the beginning of the 90s, 91, established 24 incubators to absorb the ideas of these people together with Israelis, and many companies came out of that. A third feature is the development of defense-related technologies for civilian commercialization. Again, this is something that happened not because we planned it for the ecosystem of high-tech. It was, of course, developed because of the local need for defense. And today you can see a repeat exposure of new young generations that are using cutting-edge technologies in these institutions in a very early stage of their lives, and later on they become major elements in future companies. Another point is the global technology companies that are in Israel. Most of them, and we have about 300 international companies having some activity in Israel. Most of them are having research centers, development centers. They came to Israel through acquisition of a small Israeli company. Because we had, since the 90s, a flow of new companies in Israel, many were successful. The world international company looked at this market and started to buy Israeli companies, but they didn't only take the technology out. They continued to keep the people because they thought these people can contribute a lot for them. And today we see many of these international companies continue to operate in Israel, and you can see many people that work in these companies going out, spin off these companies and start new companies. So this is a very important source for new companies. I would speak only about more two points. One of them is the government support, the government policy, and the other one is, of course, the financing. In the government, there is an understanding that when there is a market failure, the government should intervene. And the government also adopted a policy many years ago that it should take, it should share risk with the private sector. In other words, there is an office of the chief scientist, which is an agency for giving grants to companies, to projects in companies. And this agency gives grants up to 50% of the cost, or in other words, the risk, they share the risk of the company who decided to develop a new product. But it's not only sharing the risk, it's also with minimum control. The government is not taking control of the projects, and they mostly try not to invest directly as an investor for equity in companies. On the other hand, the private sector role is to know how to manage these companies and to know how to build value for the companies and then take them public or bring some mergers. So this is something that it's a very old policy for the government, and I would say it's also encouraging entrepreneurs, because the policy is we can define it as a neutral policy. The government does not tell people or companies what to develop, what will be the future of the technologies, and they prefer rather to be passive and to react to ideas of people or companies. And if you stand in a criteria, which is very simple, you have to show innovation and you have to show ability to commercialize it, then you can get the grant. And financing, the last point is the financing. Since the 90s, Israel started to build its venture capital industry, which was not there before. Again, the government saw a market failure and decided to intervene with Yozma company, which was Yozma, it's initiative in English. With $100 million, we established a new 10 funds together with international players because they had the experience, they know how to do it. And we, in order to attract them, had to incentivize them. International or investors are not coming to your country only because you are nice. They want to see that they can make money, they can do business. So you have to give them incentives, tax incentives and also other type of incentives. I don't have too much time to go into it. And these funds were very successful, local funds with local managements, with, as I said, international intervention. And after we established them, and because they were successful, the venture capital industry was established. And since then, all the funds raised more than $25 billion. There are more than 6,000 startups that established since the 90s. M&A, merger and acquisition, that I told you before about the international involvement, were more than 40 billion until today. There are more than 100 Israeli companies in Nasdaq Stock Exchange, and of course Israel now has a global recognition. Did I finish my time? Looks like, no? Looks like. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Erlich. We're running out of time. It was extremely interesting and would have loved to hear more, and hopefully during the question and answer session we'll have more of that. Let me introduce now our second panelist, Mr. Giovanni Anelli. He's Chief CERN Knowledge Transfer Group. Giovanni Anelli is head of the Knowledge Transfer Group of the European Organization of Nuclear Research since August 2011. He joined CERN's Knowledge Transfer Group in 2010 as Technology Transfer Officer. Before, he worked for 3 years for LEM SA, a company market leader in providing solutions for measuring electrical parameters. Prior to this, he worked for 10 years in CERN's microelectronics group in the physics department, where he designed several low-noise, low-power analog and mixed signal circuits for high-energy physics application. Dr. Anelli received a Master in Science degree in Electronics Engineering from the Polytechnic in Milano in 1997 and a PhD in Electronics Engineering with honors from the Polytechnic of Grenoble in France in 2000. And he has also an executive MBA from HEC in Paris, France in 2008. He's the author and co-author of more than 70 publications, and he's an IEEE senior member. And I welcome Mr. Anelli to the floor.
Thank you very much, Moderator. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be here today and give you the perspective of a large international research infrastructure on the topic of our panel today, and how the innovation which comes from basic research can indeed create a competitive economy. So let me introduce you to CERN. The European Organization for Nuclear Research was founded in 1954, is one of Europe's first joint ventures, and today we have 20 member states and a number of observer states and institutions. And CERN is supported mainly by Europe, but the science we do today is really global. As I will explain you in a second, the machines that we have today to do the physics we do are unique in the world. So we like to say that what we do at CERN is global science with a European flavor. We have more than 2,000 employees, but what impresses most of the people is the number of users that we have. It's more than 10,000 people come from all over the world to CERN to use our machines, our detectors, and to conduct high-energy physics experiments. So what we do is research in fundamental physics. This is really basic science, the most basic you can get almost. But to do it, we need very complex hardware. We need particle accelerators. You might have heard about the Large Hadron Collider, this 27-kilometer long tunnel not too far from here, where we accelerate protons at the speed of light, then we smash them against each other, and we try to understand what's happening. And as you might have heard, recently we announced a very important discovery, the Higgs boson. So to do the science we need to do, as I said, we need to build those particle accelerators and then to build particle detectors around the collision point. We need to analyze all the data which come out from the experiments. And all the things that we build are unique, and very often we are confronted with problems which were never solved before. And that's why all our physicists and engineers are forced kind of to innovate. And as I said, we innovate mainly in three fields: detectors and electronics, everything which has to do with accelerator technologies, and IT. It is a part of the mission of the organization to make sure that all the innovation which is generated is somehow going back, transferred back to the society at large. Of course, in particular to our member states, but we are really open worldwide. And to give you some examples of technologies which came from CERN and now are used elsewhere, well, I always start with the most known example, the World Wide Web. Everybody uses it. Not everybody knows that this was born at CERN. And it was one of the things we needed to share data with our fellow physicists all around the world. And thanks to this innovation, the society at large today profits from that. Another example I like to make is a study which was made in the 90s. As I said, we have CERN is really a center of excellence for a few disciplines. Accelerator physics is one of those. And we have a number of experts. And in the 90s, we decided to look at what we could do in the field of hadron therapy. This is curing cancer with a beam of accelerated particles. This is a technique which is by far superior to the conventional techniques which are used most commonly today, like radiotherapy. And this technique needs a beam of accelerated particles, and we need to send them to the place where the patient has a tumor. And CERN has a lot of expertise, of course, in that. And in the 90s, we made a study. So we gathered a number of CERN scientists, and we asked them, how would you design a hadron therapy center with the technology that we have today at CERN? And they came up with a design study, which is now used by a center in Italy called CNAO, treating already patients, and is being used for the design of a new center in Austria. So I made one example from the IT sector, one from the accelerator sector. I have another one from the detector sector. The detectors that we build to see the particle collision can also be used elsewhere. And we have a technology called Medipix, which is used in several applications, including medical imaging. So you see that medical is likely for us one of the sectors in which our technologies find applications. So it's a very high societal impact. And one example from the accelerator sector, and the last one, which is important for the environment, is solar panels. We have a company today which is producing very high-performance solar panels. And if you fly to Geneva, if you have the chance to look at the roofs of the buildings of Geneva Airport, you will see a number of those panels installed on the roofs. This is one of the largest thermal solar panel field in Switzerland. And those panels contain a certain technology. To make those panels very high performance, we need to create vacuum in it, and the technology which creates vacuum is the same one that we use in the accelerator. So I stop now with the technical example, but I just wanted to give you a flavor of what we do, and you know, when we talk about what we do as CERN fundamental physics, it's sometimes difficult to see why am I here to talk to you, and why is this relevant to the topic of the panel? And indeed, it's very relevant, because the innovation we produce can indeed foster economy. Now, I'd like to come to the second part of my talk, which is to explain a little bit what we do at CERN to make sure that this innovation can indeed get to society and possibly help in creating a competitive economy. And this is the role a little bit of the knowledge transfer group, and not only. So we do technology transfer, and the group is called knowledge transfer because there is, of course, a lot of know-how that we transfer through a number of activities. And those activities can be licensing to some companies. Very often it's through collaboration. One thing that we are very good at CERN is collaborating, because all our experiments today are made of thousands of people coming from hundreds of different institutes. And needless to say, CERN is a champion of open innovation, and we have a number of initiatives in the field of open innovation. We have something called Open Lab, which is a public-private partnership, where we have a number of companies which give to CERN their products, and we kind of beta test them. The motto of Open Lab is that you make it, we break it. And this is extremely useful for us. We have access to very new technologies, and it's extremely useful for the companies, because with all the tests we do, we are a very difficult customer, and we end up transferring a lot of our know-how to the companies. Open source software is another field in which CERN is very active, and also open hardware. We at CERN made the 4th license in the world about open hardware and how to disseminate hardware with the same principle of open source software. I have no time to enter too much into the details. And the 4th channel to disseminate our technology is, of course, through the creation of new companies. And something we haven't been doing a lot in the past, and we are becoming more and more active at, is fostering the creation of new companies in our member states based on CERN's technologies and know-how. There is also a lot of knowledge transfer through purchasing contracts. At CERN, a large fraction of our budget is spent to buy equipment and the technologies that we need to build our experiments. And very often, as I mentioned, we have to buy things which were never built before. And in a number of contracts, we end up helping our suppliers and teaching them quite a number of things that they can reuse in other products. And finally, I conclude with knowledge transfer, what I call knowledge transfer through people. And as I mentioned, CERN is a center of excellence for a number of disciplines. And we give to a lot of people the possibility of being trained in a global environment. And this is extremely important, and we not only train people at CERN, but we do it all over the world with a number of schools, and this is kind of contribution from CERN to capacity building, also in developing countries. And this training happens in many different ways. We have students at CERN, master students and PhD students. Just to give you an idea of the impact of those programs, we have at the moment something like 2,500 PhD students only for LHC, about 3,000 PhD students in total. If you take an average length of a PhD 4 years, it means that every year we produce something like 750 PhD theses. And all those people which come to CERN as students, they have the opportunity to learn a lot of things that they can reuse in their future careers. You have, it's not only about students, we have a number of programs for people which already have their degree. They come to CERN for a few years and it's a kind of on-the-job training. They get trained and then they go back to the member states or in other places and continue their career thanks to what they learn at CERN. And let's say this is just to stress the fact that it's not only about technology, it's really the knowledge which goes to high-quality people, which is a way to giving back to society. And I'd like to conclude my speech here, so to just to stress once again the idea that basic science is a key driver for innovation. And what is peculiar about basic science is that is innovation normally finds application. It takes a bit longer, but very often is disrupting innovation. So this is what happens at CERN. We always say no matter how much research you would do on the candle, you would still get a candle. It takes some disruptive innovation to get to the light bulb. And this is what we do at CERN, and that's why it's so important to invest in basic science. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Anelli, for this very compelling speech. Being the Swiss citizen that I am and having been brought up in a multilingual environment, I shall now switch to this magnificent language that is French to introduce our next speaker. Permettez-moi de...
I would like to introduce Mr. Philippe Ramé from the Ministry of Sustainable Development of France. He is responsible for global affairs within the international and European affairs of the Ministry of the Ecology, Sustainable Development and Energy. He had a strategic post within the Ministry of Agriculture, then joined the services of the General Secretariat for European Affairs, a body which is responsible for coordination, interministerial coordination, so as to coordinate the French position on environmental European issues, such as environmental governance. He joined the Ministry of Ecology in 2008 and was responsible for promoting sustainable development and the environment in UN bodies, including the UNEP, ECE, and others, and other international organizations such as the OECD, and others. These led him to see the integrality of the process at the UN, and also he worked on follow-up to obligations taken at conferences. He was responsible for follow-up to the Aarhus Convention for France. And I give the floor to Mr. Ramé now for his statement. Thank you, Pierre, Madam Chairperson, Mr. Executive Secretary, ladies and gentlemen ministers, ladies and gentlemen ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen delegates. First of all, I would like to thank you and the Secretariat of the UNECE for this invitation to France to take part in this panel on innovation in the broader context of preparation for the high-level segment of ECOSOC, which will take place at the beginning of July here. In a difficult financial context, which the president of ECOSOC has just recalled, actors for development must innovate and devise innovative ways for growth. Traditional modes of development have shown their limits, unfortunately. Society aspires to sustainable growth, which is balanced at the economic and social and environmental levels. Hence, there are many initiatives brought by private actors from various sectors who are working alongside traditional donors. That is why we would like to take advantage of this session to talk about the main areas of our national policy, which we have undertaken which we will undertake during the high-level segment, which I'll talk about. The landscape for development aid has changed a great deal since 2000. There are new objectives now, new limitations, and new actors. France has the ambition to respond to the challenges of mastering globalization and to reestablish balance for the planet over the long term. France's development policy is based on three main areas: economic development, security, and preserving the environment.
Ce sont les conditions.
These are necessary conditions to continue our fight to eradicate poverty, which will continue to be a very important part of French development policy, because the date for achieving the Millennium Development Goals is a priority, and 80% of French bilateral aid is dedicated to this. France's commitment is also seen at the highest level in our participation in the work on the future of the MDGs, and I'm thinking about the post-2015 development agenda, the negotiations during the aid forum, and also a follow-up to the Rio Plus 20 commitments with the setting up of sustainable development objectives. The coordinated management of these goals, which aims to develop policies at the global level, means it is essential to set up common goals for all countries. This will require significant and long-lasting financing. The UN Conference of 2002 in Monterrey, for the first time, called for a new partnership between countries of the North and countries of the South, so as to find common sources for new financing. France encourages innovative sources of financing in addition to traditional sources of aid. It is necessary to obtain more stable financial flows and those which are less dependent on budgets, which are managed by multilateral bodies and together with private actors. We note the importance of research for sustainable development. This must be subject to substantial financing, which would include transfer of technology and joint development of technology. The French policies for development is a major part of France's development policies. This works to contribute to sustainable development, and it is an important factor in searching for practical solutions to respond to the challenges of the MDGs and the future sustainable development goals. Culture plays a cross-cutting role in all of these MDGs, and it was one of the motors. The cultural development aspect of development shows the national aspect, and it also shows the need for social cohesion. In addition, the cultural sector also shows important potential, including for developing countries. The preservation of cultural and linguistic diversity, and thank you, Pierre, for your kind words about the French language, as well as improvement of access to culture and training. These are factors of good governance and promotion of democratic values. And this is now moving on to my next point. France believes that innovation for creating a dynamic and competitive economy should be at the service of green and inclusive growth. Innovation requires strong growth and ongoing growth and a balance between research and application. In terms of research for development, the innovative aspect can be a service, a mode of production, or consumption, distribution, or access to markets. Experiments are in general due to cooperation among different types of actors to try to bring new models and tools for financing. In various cases, there are different phases: experimenting, innovation, and distribution. Innovation must be involved in the technological areas. It is very important that this is something that we are fully exploiting, the potential of recycling waste in terms of contributing to productivity. We must also deal with optimizing all of the flows of resources: water, energy, raw materials, and land. But we must also deal in an optimum way with mutualizing the costs on the level of any territory. There needs to be a circular economy. This is a subject of the environmental conference, which will be held in France in autumn this year. Innovation must also be carried out to rationalize and streamline activities in the financial sector. This must be seen in an overall way, in an integrated way, in order to manage resources. As an example, the subject of activities for transport activities for the region, this is something that is very important. and logistics, as well as managing resources. These are elements which have an impact on the economic system. These considerations require a more in-depth view of smart cities with innovative experiments that bring together private and public actors. We might have an opportunity to talk about this during the ministerial segment in October on habitat and land management. Research also must be carried out in the social field. The social stakes mean that there needs to be pooled management of resources in a cross-cutting way. Different actors and their initiatives take an innovative social approach which must bring new responses to new needs, or better meet these needs in current conditions of the market and social policies. There's also the participation and cooperation of actors concerned, including users. In terms of finances, there needs to be a view of shared resources, and we need to ensure the profitability of projects that are carried out. Profitability must be seen in an integrated global way, looking at the costs and benefits in terms of the social area and economic areas. There needs to be a dynamic economic policy. This is also an important part of the policy for a sustainable, competitive economy. The scale of the changes necessary means it is impossible for public actors to carry out the transformations and innovations alone. It is therefore essential that the government focus on levers which would enable synergies and mobilization of other actors to support fundamental research, to distribute innovations, to have financial incentives which are adapted to new needs and economic models, and choices of supply, which are innovative. Mr. Chairperson, colleagues, thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur Ramet,
Thank you, Mr. Ramet, for this statement. It was very encouraging about the developments in the social economy.
Go back to English. I'm afraid I will have to. I'm not speaking Polish, so it's going to be difficult for me to introduce in Polish. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Mr. Paweł Stelmaszczyk. He's head of unit at the Directorate General for Mobility and Transport of the European Commission. Mr. Stelmaszczyk was appointed as a head of unit at the Directorate General for Mobility and Transport of the European Commission in March 2009. His current unit is in charge of EU-level policy development in the field of intelligent transport systems. Previously, Paweł also held responsibility for EU policy in the area of logistics, co-modality, inland waters, motorways of the sea and Marco Polo program. Prior to his position at the Commission, he served as Vice President of the Management Board of Polish Information and Foreign Investment and Information Agency, and as President of the Management Board of Warsaw Technology Park. He also held high-level management positions in multinational companies in the ICT sector, including Microsoft and Intel Corporation, with responsibility for implementing their stakeholder engagement strategies and digital education program in Central and Eastern Europe and EMEA. Paweł holds a master's degree in international trade and public policy from the George Mason University in the US, as well as an MBA degree from the École supérieure des sciences économiques et commerciales in Paris. He has also completed postgraduate studies in e-business management at Warsaw University. And I'll leave now the floor to Paweł.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That reminds me that I should probably review my biographic note to save time so that I can use it more efficiently to share some information with you about how to support deployment of innovation, because this is what I was asked to do here with you today by the organizers. But let me first thank the organizers for keeping the European Commission in mind and for inviting us to contribute to these discussions on such timely topic as innovation and how to innovate our way out of the dual or triple crisis now, both financial and economic crisis. And I was asked to do it looking specifically at some societal challenges and even more specifically at the transport sector. And in this respect, I would very much like to say a word of thanks and appreciation to the European Commission, UNECE, United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, for the good cooperation that we have had over many years now, looking at such challenges as establishment of common standards, technical specifications, aligning the work that we do within the European Commission with respect to the EU member states, and with a view to extending these common standards and technical specifications further east and south and west and globally. We very much appreciate it because when it comes to innovative high-tech products, we are absolutely convinced that this is the key: common standards and specifications. So now, without further ado, I would like to move on and tell you a little bit about how we are going to support deployment of innovation and research, both basic research, then pre-deployment, and deployment market take-up of innovation within the EU, looking at the excuse me, at the future financial perspective, which for us stretches from 2014 to 2020. And for this, we are in the process of adopting a special long-term program called Horizon 2020. And this funding scheme, this special program, is looking at such topics as scientific excellence within the EU. That's our ambition, to be excellent in science. Then we look at industrial competitiveness, and last but not least, societal challenges, including transport and energy. And these are the challenges, societal challenges, that we have listed to be supported under Horizon 2020 over the next 7 years. And you can clearly see in the green box here on the slide that smart, green, and integrated transport is considered as one of such big challenges that need to be supported through EU funding and policy measures. We want to do it through enhanced international cooperation, and in this respect, we very much appreciate the work that we do together with UNECE and other international organizations. We aim to create a single European research area so that every researcher, every entrepreneur, every innovator in the European Union will have access to the same programs and tools to support his or her innovative ideas and bring them to the market as quickly as possible. And then we also want to support excellent science base by creating the proper infrastructure, linking academia with business and entrepreneurs. And then we also want to disseminate this knowledge that is created in the process, including the knowledge emerging from failures. Now, what is the duration of this program? I mentioned it's 7 years. This is how we work in the European Commission, in the European Union as a whole. We have these seven-year periods for which we agree on funding lines. And specifically for Horizon 2020, the European Commission proposed a budget of 88 billion euro for the 7 years to come. The discussions are now ongoing with the member states in the Council and the European Parliament to finally agree the budget available. But even though it is still a question mark, how much will be available for supporting research and innovation through this program at the end of the process. I think that the ballpark figure of 80 billion is probably what we're talking about here. The scope is to support research and innovation, and the nice thing about this particular program is that we have made a great effort to make it much more flexible, much more user-friendly, much simpler, with fewer funding lines and streamlined access to funding for the applicants. Oops. Okay, now moving on to transport, to be specific. We want to support activities and actions that would make transport more efficient, more environmentally friendly, safer, and seamless. And this seamless door-to-door mobility is a new concept that we want to support to the extent possible. And this includes such new innovative platforms as multimodal travel planning applications, because we believe that there's a great potential to stimulate innovation in this particular field. So that when you wake up in the morning and you know that you need to go from where you are to your destination for that day, you want to look at the options that you have in terms of travel modes, so that you should be able to quickly check on your mobile device, a smartphone, start an application developed by a student half a year ago, which will allow you to make an intelligent decision to get there as quickly as possible and as cheaply as possible, and probably with the lowest possible CO2 footprint. That's the type of innovation that we want to support under this heading of seamless door-to-door mobility. Now, I must share with you that it is, of course, not easy. Okay, it is not only throwing money at the applicants, at academics, researchers, entrepreneurs. It is trying to find the right balance between diverging interests and our policy objectives, the goals of the entrepreneurs, the goals of big industrial players such as the Microsofts, the Googles of this world, and a bunch of Israeli companies which are very active in this broadly understood field of innovation. And also we need to factor in the user needs. I mean, I have listed here for you the challenges that we see in terms of striking the balance between competitiveness and sustainability, because of course sustainability costs money. Okay, but at the same time we have no choice but to make transport greener and more sustainable. The same goes for technology integration and socioeconomic dimension. Okay, improving road safety, yes, can be achieved through massive deployment of new technologies, intelligent transport systems. But then, depending on your level of ambition, when we look at our impact assessment in terms of cost-benefit analysis, okay, the level of ambition in terms of sophistication in technology that you want to invest in is directly proportional with the investment, the money that you need to spend to deploy such solutions. And as we all know, public money is scarce these days. And then we also need to strike the right balance between the different modes. And let me share with you here that we published in 2011 so-called white paper on transport policy for the next decade. And basically it is based on three key presumptions, which are curbing mobility for passengers and freight is not an option, okay, as far as the transport policy is concerned. We want to look at transport as a system, as a network industry. And the truth about the network industry is that the value of the network grows exponentially with its extension. And that's why it is absolutely crucial for us, as far as the European Commission is concerned, to extend our policies, our common standards, our common technical specifications as widely as possible. And on this, we were very much looking forward to working together with the UNEC going forward. And the third main pillar of the white paper is that we, looking at the forecasts for demand in transport at the next 10 or 20 years, we will need all modes of transport performing to the best of their capacity. So playing one mode against the other, investing in rail as opposed to road is probably not the best way to go. We want to invest in the whole transport system as such. Okay, making transport more sustainable means for us supporting research and innovation in cleaner propulsion technologies, looking into lower emission alternative energies for transport, constructing lighter aircrafts and vehicles in general, making and installing, deploying in mass market environment smarter equipment, smarter transport infrastructure, and supporting intelligent, innovative transport services, including in urban areas, which is where we have the biggest challenge when it comes to congestion and air pollution, for example. Then, when we talk about seamless mobility, seamless door-to-door transport, we want to support any activities aiming at reduction of traffic congestion, as I said, mostly in urban areas, improved mobility of people and freight, better management of flows of documents in freight transport, integrated ticketing, so that when you plan your travel using your smartphone application, then you can make a booking, you can issue a ticket all in one click. That's our aim, and this is the type of research and innovation that we want to support. And then last but not least, of course, we want to contribute to improvements in road safety, to the reduction of fatalities resulting from traffic accidents. And again, in this respect, I'm happy to share with you that we are just about to adopt a new Commission decision on mandatory deployment of eCall services across the EU. And here again, I am pleased to tell you that we have very constructive dialogue to extend this type of human life saving solution based on technology, on innovative transport systems to countries such as Russia, even though they have their own navigation system, GLONASS, in Russia, but we're making very good progress to make the two systems compatible. Okay, I mentioned competitive. Yes, we want to keep transport as a business and transport for businesses in Europe as efficient and as competitive as possible. So here we want to support research and innovation aiming at coming up with new generation of transport means, including traffic control systems, deployment of onboard unit, supporting cooperative systems, supporting connected cars which would communicate with one another as well as with infrastructure. So these are the new transport concepts that we are after. And again, in this respect, we work also in close sync, so to speak, with our Japanese friends and American colleagues as well. So international cooperation is absolutely key to our success as far as the European Union's agenda of supporting innovation in transport is concerned. So I mentioned the need for common standards. But we also need to facilitate exchange of knowledge, monitor in an objective manner results from the pilots that we will be funding under Horizon 2020 and so forth. So with this, I will close basically by telling you that if you are interested in tapping into this Horizon 2020 as an entrepreneur or as an academic, look around, try to join some consortia that might already be forming with a view to applying for funding, and the funding can be up to 100% of the eligible costs. So this is a change compared to the previous edition of the 7th Framework Program supporting research and innovation. There will be a dedicated instrument for supporting innovation for small and medium-sized enterprises. There will be support actions with money for studies. Oops, sorry. Yes. For studies, and there will be contests with cash prizes, and we are engaging with European Bank for EBI, European Bank for infrastructure, also to come up with new ways of financial instruments, new financial engineering, which would leverage the 80 billion that we will have to spend over the next 7 years. Thank you for your attention.
Pavel, thank you very much for your very comprehensive intervention. We are now coming to our last but not least panelist, of course. You have heard an overview of the different aspects and...
Could the chair please use his microphone?
A more specific industry. And we have the honor to have Mr. Stefan Sundman, who's present. He's the Vice President for Corporate Relationship and Development at UPM. Stefan Sundman has a Master's Science degree from the Helsinki University of Technology. He has a major in wood technology. He joined UPM in autumn 2011 as Vice President, Corporate Relations and Development. He's working especially with energy, climate change and forest-related issues and the development of the global bioeconomy. Prior to UMP, Sundman has been working a decade with Finnish Forest Industries Federation with different similar responsibilities on both national and EU level. UPM leads the integration of bio and forest industries in a new and sustainable and innovation-driven future. So we'll see how forest industry can also contribute to innovation. Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for...
Once again, could the speaker please use the microphone? Microphone, please.
Forest-based economy and giving a perspective from a company example on what UPM is having as a strategy here. Shortly, UPM is a global pulp and paper industry company in transformation to become something as a biofor company in the bioeconomy, having production in 17 countries and a turnover roughly 10 billion euros. The forest-based sector is globally or in the ECE region is adding value of $285 billion yearly. If we look on the pulp and wood sector, it's already $230 billion added, and this sector employs and gives livelihood to some 5 million people globally. And of course, the forests have a very important role in sequestering carbon from the atmosphere. Wood-based biomass plays an important and constantly growing role in the bioeconomy. The Confederation for European Paper Industry has a vision that bioeconomy could become the greatest single driver for global economy in 2050. This is an economy where basic building blocks for our industries, raw materials and energy, are derived from renewable resources. It's a green economy which is a major opportunity for the ECE region and of course for the company I am representing. We see that there is a forest full of new opportunities because of many factors. The world around us is changing, the global population is growing and wealth is increasing. At the same time, we have the challenges of combating climate change, and we will have a scarcity of resources globally. These become more and more evident. One part to the solution of these challenges would be to increase the sustainable consumption and production of reusable, recyclable products which are based on renewable raw materials. And actually, it's probably very self-evident that whatever is produced or consumed, the focus needs to be on materials and resource efficiency. One could say that we need to create more with less. And here, of course, innovations have a very crucial role. Wood is a raw material full of different opportunities. In our company, we have a strategy and a vision of creating more from less and a buyer for concept, where we aim to use the raw material wood, which we know very well, in a very efficient way. And this is the core for our green innovations, where we see a lot of opportunities in the raw material we are using. And we are all the time looking for opportunities where we can find areas and new products where we can replace non-renewable raw materials with renewables. And such products include also wood composites, where we combine plastics and wood, and also biofuels, which is, of course, very close to the previous speakers' views around making the transport sector more efficient in Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, I would say that we are living in the middle of the 6th industrial revolution, and we believe that that revolution will be bio-based. But what does it actually mean? I think it means that already now new disciplines and motives steer the behavior of the consumers, and therefore people justify their purchasing decisions on totally new grounds. They look for sustainable alternatives in a very, very wide context. And for us, sustainable bioeconomy means that people prefer renewable energy, renewable raw materials, and products which are recyclable. Of course, for us, it means a huge demand on industrial ecology, and we need to focus very much on sustainable combinations in the perspective of environment, economy, and technology. And of course, innovations have a huge role in creating this new bio-based economy. What we are aiming at is, of course, to integrate the current businesses and competencies we have inside the company, being a producer of wood-based products for more than 100 years, with the knowledge and new business and innovation we have inside the company. And through innovations, we can both increase the productivity of our existing processes and at the same time create new sustainable products. So we need innovations both in the existing processes and in the new processes. We are in a transformation as the forest-based industry in Europe. Paper consumption is decreasing all the time, and we are in a situation where there is too much paper production capacity in Europe. And therefore, renewal and cost competitiveness are essential for companies to be able to still grow in this situation. And for our company, the more we are able to improve on resource efficiency, material efficiency, and the more competitive, of course, we are. And here, innovations have a crucial role in increasing our efficiency. Here are some examples of how we try to build new businesses on the foundations of our existing ones. While cost competitiveness is, of course, in key role in these existing businesses, these activities, I mean the existing businesses on the foundation side here in this triangle, are also very crucial for financing the creation of new products and businesses. New revolutionary technologies for production of biofibrils, high-quality biofuels or biocomposites, where we combine plastics with wood fibers, are just examples of the opportunities we have for the moment. For us, these new products are in different stages of their lifespan. Some are still on the lab level, some we are already piloting and are having in pre-commercial stage, and some we are already investing in large industrial scale where we have very close contact, of course, already with the markets. And, of course, for a big company, commercialization and industry scale business operations is the primary goal. And therefore, partnering with research institutes is very crucial, both inside the sector and outwards. The EU Commissioner for Research, Mayor Quinn, has stated that Europe actually needs to make the transition to a post-petroleum economy, that the greater use of renewable resources is no longer just an option, it's a necessity. She also says that we must drive the transition from a fossil-based to a bio-based society with research and innovations in the motor. I think these are very wise words. For us, for example, there is a gap between demonstration scale advanced biorefineries to mature technologies and commercialization of high-value products. I would say that the main challenge in EU is to overcome this innovation valley of death and come from lab and demo scale to commercialization and industrial scale. And here, these previously mentioned Horizon technology and research funding have a very crucial role. One of those initiatives inside this kind of development is a public-private partnership for bio-based industries, where we are also participating. And in this EU 8th Research Framework Programme, Horizon 2020 aims to tackling these challenges by helping to bridge the gap between research and the markets. The GTIs, which will be then the form of creating these public-private partnerships, will bring together the resources needed for addressing specific societal challenges. For us, the most important is, of course, around the bio-based economy and the proposed public-private partnership for bio-based industries, which we hope will be very successful. And actually, Europe offers a variety of policies that are relevant to the bio-based economy and can trigger the development by 2020. And actually, the role of the policy is to intensify the supply. We need to have more biomass mobilized globally, and this is, of course, an opportunity. We need to secure the demand for the products we are then aiming to produce, like advanced biofuels as part of the European renewable energy policy. And of course, we need to trigger investments and support investments in biorefineries, for example, by creating this public-private partnership on bio-based industries. Another example is from the UNECE, where especially the Timber Committee is doing important work in increasing, let's say, the understanding of the forest sector's role in the green economy. I would say we all have a common challenge to raise the opportunities, and this process, which is now ongoing and is to be finalized during these years, is a brilliant example of increasing the knowledge among members on how the forest sector can contribute and lead the way towards an emerging green economy in the global level. Finally, I would like to end with one just example on one growth example of growth investment we've done as a company. We are investing in a biorefinery in Finland, and our aim is to produce 100,000 tons of second-generation biodiesel a year from today. The raw material is wood. It's a residue liquid form wood from chemical pulping called tall oil, and that raw material will be then further processed to something like 100,000 tons of advanced second-generation biodiesel. And here, of course, we are using all the synergies we have in technological knowledge around using wood, all the processes we have in use, and we have created these innovations, all the intellectual property rights, patents by ourselves and together with one technology supplier. But the aim is to create a fuel which has 80% lower greenhouse gas impact than normal diesel for transport use. And finally, just a view of what kind of scale this kind of activities is. When we integrate this kind of new investment to an existing plant with a harbor, with a grid connection, with a railway connection, with a huge wood flows already to the pulp and paper production on the site, we have synergies, and we have a lot of synergies in this kind of process. And therefore, we see very much opportunities for our sector to transform if we are innovative and if we are able to be innovative and competitive. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Stefan, for this very good specific presentation. I have received a number of requests from delegates to be able to intervene on the floor. Nevertheless, allow me to take very little of your time to summarize what I've heard this morning, which I think carries a number of very important messages. First, we had Mr. Erlich telling us about the grassroots movement that he and his colleagues initiated in Israel, where the collaboration between the state and the venture capital industry has created a true development of innovation and innovative companies. Then we had Dr. Anelli telling us how much strong research institutes, which are a joint collaboration between countries, can foster innovation, and that innovation can be transferred between those institutes into the real economy and create huge opportunities for the real economy to basically step on and develop, as the World Wide Web is a telling example of that. Then Philippe Ramet has reminded us that the economy without the sustainability aspects and the cultural aspects are difficult to implement, and that we need to have a holistic view of all this implementation, that technology alone and innovation alone cannot develop a world in which there is a balance between the different actors and between the different social players. Then our EU representative, Mr. Selmaschik, has explained to us how much the EU is standing behind those thoughts and how much they are actually acting. 88 billion is quite a staggering number, which I'm very impressed about. And he has also explained that all this innovation and that technology needs to be rooted in a real world in which, if you want, logistics, transportation, infrastructure is very important, and without coming with intelligent transportation, we won't be able to handle the increasing amount of traffic and the increasing amount of people moving around. And finally, Stefan has told us that a centuries-old industry, like the forestry industry, which you wouldn't necessarily think immediately as the most innovative sector, can indeed reinvent itself and can come up with answers and solutions to the ecological problems that we witness and which are stemming from other traditional petroleum-based companies. And I thank him for giving us a vibrant example that a whole industry can reinvent itself and can use innovation as a new ways of developing its own economy. So, as you see, there are a number of elements which seem really important and have been addressed this morning. And I am not surprised that you feel very concerned, and therefore I invite you to animate and ask questions from the panelists or to intervene on the floor.